as well. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Bill, I'll start with you. This whole idea of using virtual reality in this nursing setting, IUPU Columbus, really a trendsetter in that regard. How did it come about? How did this begin?
So IUPU Columbus was using mannequins to do simulation. And those are very pricey and very hard to maintain and once their life cycle ends. So it becomes really cost ineffective to maintain those. So we were looking for a way to not only keep the cost down, but yet really provide a simulation environment for the students that allows them to learn in a safe environment. And we looked all around. We eventually found SimX AR, which is a simulation software company, and they do virtual reality. And it was the ability to use cutting edge technology in that simulation environment.
Yeah, Carrie, talk about how you've integrated virtual reality into the curriculum. Some of the things that are used and how students, nursing students, really engage with VR.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. We integrated learning those foundational tasks, practice with the VR, and then go into another simulation where they engage with an actor, a standardized patient, and continue to apply those skills in a safe learning environment outside of the clinical setting.
Yeah, lots of opportunities, I assume, to use VR in the classroom. One of them, I kind of touched on this in the introduction, and that's with the opioid crisis that obviously is affecting much of the state of Indiana, many other states as well. How is virtual reality used in that regard?
So for our junior nursing students, for example, they have the opportunity to interact with a opioid-addicted mother who has a newborn, and it's about providing care in a respectful way, and also being in a very stressful environment. The babies have a very high-pitched, loud shrill that can be heartbreaking and difficult to listen to. So having that experience first and learning how to communicate with respect and to develop and understand the patient and develop that empathy is really important.
Yeah. Bill, as you look at this and, as a university, IU globally, I'm sure wants to stay on that cutting edge. This, I won't call it an experiment, but using virtual reality in this regard, does this lead to those next steps? And how do you continue to invest to kind of stay ahead of the curve?
So we're continuing to look for new ways to use this technology. So one way is the augmented reality that has been talked about. It's not quite, the technology is not quite there yet. However, we are looking for, the SimX and us are partnering to look for ways to further simulations to bring in those standardized patients into that environment so we can do the physiology on them and allow for a better interaction between the students and not just a
experience. It's a safe learning environment. Again, they get to practice how they would behave, how they would act in high-risk situations in a safe environment. So it really supplements the curriculum.
All right, the nursing program at IUPU Columbus, really cutting edge in the nation in terms of using virtual reality and now augmented reality on the way too. Bill Fields, also Carrie Shaver. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, making headlines this week as well, an Indianapolis-based association representing Indiana's 30 independent colleges and universities says collectively they have a $5.4 billion impact on the state's economy annually. Independent Colleges of Indiana released an economic impact study to illustrate what role those institutions have on the economy. ICI says the schools employ collectively 22,000 workers, making them the 7th largest employer in the state. The association says the study revealed those 30 campuses welcome about 3.5 million visitors a year who spend about $500 million at area restaurants, hotels, and other establishments. Still ahead, our insiders will sound off on some of the week's top stories. But first, one of the biggest players in the high-tech side of commercial loans is located right here in Indiana. And the momentum continues for Carmel-based Baker Hill. We'll find out what's driving the company's success. That's next. will build on more than 30 years of industry experience. Carmel-based Baker Hill says it is continuing to deliver cutting-edge banking solutions that empower financial institutions. Its next-gen platform allows institutions to originate commercial, small business, consumer loans, and manage risk on a single platform. They're serving some 500 financial institutions, including more than 20% of the top 150 U.S. banks, 20% of the top 25 U.S. credit unions. CEO John Degnan is here now with more on what's next at Baker Hill. And John, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Baker Hill is one of those great Indiana entrepreneurial success stories built a number of years ago. But talk about the progression. Mark Hill, co-founder, very well-known entrepreneur in town, started Baker Hill. Talk about the progression that leads us to Baker Hill today.
Sure. About 1984, Mark Hill, Karen Baker, founded Baker Hill, and really was a great, again, as you mentioned, a great Indiana-Indianapolis story in terms of the tech scene. And really started out in terms of looking to just automate basic functionality in terms of lending in banks. Fast forward 20 years, and decision was made in 2005 to sell to Experian, a large data company. Baker Hill then sat within 10 years within Experian, and about 2013, 2014, decision was made that it wasn't effectively core to the Experian business. So they decided to take that business and essentially put it out to market, and either a large strategic company and or private equity was looking to take that company back out and stand it on its own. And fourth quarter 2015, Riverside, company out of Cleveland and New York, lower middle market private equity company, purchased Baker Hill, and we essentially have been at the hard work since early 2016 to stand it back up and essentially develop the latest generation of our software.
And we'll talk about that, but as you do that and try to remain on that cutting edge, leading edge, this is an industry that's changed. The banking industry has changed in a big way.
Very much so. So, you know, I think obviously everybody understands the Great Recession and the challenge that the financial institutions had going into 2008 to 2010 period. Really from 2010 on, well, first off, there's been significant consolidation. When I first started in this business, early 90s, there was about 12,000 banks in the market. Today, there's about 5,500.
Wow. Yeah.
So you have a smaller market, but obviously larger banks in the market. But I think the biggest challenge for banks, certainly in the last 5 to 6 years, is essentially it's about distribution, and it's about digitizing the channels, either client-facing or back-office type activity, to keep up with clients and consumers in terms of what they're looking and how they want to interact.
We'll talk about this next-gen platform because that really is the focus now.
Yeah. So essentially, within the years of Experian, Baker Hill had two significant platforms, commercial platform and a small business platform, but they were two distinct platforms. What we committed to in 2016, spent about $25 million in development of this platform, is to take this functionality that sat in commercial and small business, and because those are really two different distinct segments that we make decisions differently for, or the clients make decisions differently for, and bring it into one lending platform. So we essentially embarked on taking what we call legacy platforms, about 10-year-old platforms, and bring them into a platform for a modern-day user with a modern-day user interface that essentially our clients can consume or use.
What does that mean for future and continued growth at Baker Hill?
Listen, we're extremely bullish in terms of Baker Hill and our position in the market. We believe we've got the banking industry is it's very healthy, and they're looking to invest heavily in digitizing their channels and their backroom operations, and that's the business that we're in.
All right, Baker Hill, banking company with roots, Indiana roots dating back to the mid-'80s, continues to grow. John Degnan, great to see you. Thanks for being here. We'll look forward to talking to you soon.
You bet. Thanks.
All right. Well, the Indy Women in Tech Championship is attracting hundreds of people, thousands for a week-long festivities, including a number of tech-related events. Our Mary Rachel Redmond has more from the Brickyard.
While the Indy Women in Tech Championship brings some of the best women's golfers in the world to the Brickyard, it also shines a light on opportunities for women and girls in STEM.
We are providing opportunities to women trying to transition into tech careers, STEM careers, either for the first time or maybe they're leaving a different career. And we want to remove all barriers that they're facing, whether it's financial. We partner with educational institutions to provide the education. Maybe they need transportation help to get to those classes. They need mentorship. So any barrier they have, we aim to remove that, and we intentionally partner to do so. And we also want to build that pipeline. So 15,000 children in Indiana are now on teams building robots, building confidence, really aiming at building that pipeline and exposing them to those opportunities that they otherwise would not have known about.
Indiana is growing to be a tech hub, and we want to make sure that more women are at the table, being leaders within our community, and having the opportunity to work their way to being at the table and seeing themselves here in Indiana as a tech leader.
Having women in tech in one space is very rare. Getting to see that there are women from all walks of life and all different levels, getting to see that yes, I can be successful in the tech industry in my career is wonderful. And just getting together with people who understand the experience.
And organizers say at the conclusion of this week's events, they hope people walk away with the knowledge that they too can have an impact.
We have a lot of partnerships and future partners that believe in our mission, and I think the change starts with us. You can view women and young girls and those teams of young boys and girls with that lens of potential. Don't see them as they are. Let's see their potential and then how we need to get there. So I hope that everyone walks away knowing that they have an opportunity to be that change. They can help move the needle. They can help change the landscape of tech in our community and change lives.
Mary Rachel Redmond, Inside Indiana Business.
All right, Mary Rachel, thank you. Well, coming up, our insiders are getting warmed up to sound by Star Commercial Banking, Indiana born for Indiana business. Well, each week, a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. They're headed overseas. Joining me this week on the Insiders, pleased to be joined by Winston Terrell Group Principal Robin Winston, also a partner at Fagery Baker Daniels, Murray Clark, and ASCP Senior Director of Education, Aaron Albert. Welcome one and all to the Insiders for another edition. I guess the big tech news certainly this week, Xylo, a tech company, a spin-out company from High Alpha here in Indianapolis, announcing the largest series, or certainly one of the largest Series B funding. He said the money, the size is important, but he said even more important, the investors in this round from the Bay Area and other places outside of Indiana.
Right, well, we have investors from the West Coast, from Illinois. High Alpha was one of the, I think, early recipients of next level funding. You know, I think this is meaningful, and it illustrates kind of the ecosystem of technology and investment in the state is growing.
Yeah, how about that ecosystem? Because Murray brings up what I think is a very important point, is that ecosystem continues to grow. It didn't really used to be here, but now everywhere you look, whether it's co-working space or venture capital support groups, whatever the case might be, it's out there.
Yeah, and it's only going to explode in growth. There's definite demand for technology workers as we move forward. We definitely need to pull in those funds and resources and companies. And, you know, it's great that they're on both coasts, but it would be even greater if they were here in the Midwest.
Robin, can Indianapolis be that Silicon Prairie? You know, they talk about.